1% won't hurt nothing.
A town hall meeting is set for tonight in less than an hour at 6 o'clock at Christ United Methodist Church on Old Canton Road. Now, 60% of the voters need to vote yes in order for this tax to go into effect. Polls open at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, and of course, we will have the results of that vote on WAPT.com and on 16 WAPT News at 10. In other news, a 59-year-old man was held at gunpoint and then shot in the chest overnight. Stephanie?
Yeah, Keegan, it happened at the Laxmi gas station. It's on University Boulevard in Jackson. 16 WAPT's Tiffany Bradley explains how he survived.
The new year turned violent for a 59-year-old man who was shot in Jackson Thursday morning. Jackson police say he picked up a woman who needed a ride and stopped here at the Laxmi gas station on University Boulevard. Police say that's when two men walked up to his vehicle, tapped on the window, pulled out a gun and demanded his cash. When the victim told them he didn't have anything, one of the men shot him in the chest. Police say he still managed to drive himself to the VA hospital. He was then transported here to UMC, where police say he's in stable condition. Meantime, they're still looking for the people responsible for his shooting. In Jackson, Tiffany Bradley, 16 WAPT News.
Police say they are questioning the woman in connection with the shooting. Jackson police are still searching for whoever stole a weapon from an unmarked squad car. They tell us this missing weapon is an MP5 submachine gun. It was taken from a SWAT officer's unmarked police SUV Tuesday night. It was parked in front of his South Jackson home. Assistant Chief Lee Vance tells us they don't have any leads.
Somebody in the public knows who took this weapon, though, and it would behoove them to give us information so that we can get this weapon back as soon as possible.
If you can help them with this case, call Crime Stoppers. That number is 601-355-TIPS. New tonight, a former Richland teacher pleaded guilty to a sexual battery charge. Keegan.
Stephanie, Stacy Walker admitted to having sex with a teenage student. He was 16 years old in 2012 when Walker was arrested. Now, at the time, Walker was an algebra teacher at Richland High School and also a coach for the boys and girls soccer teams. There's no word yet on a sentencing date. Now, one of the three men who led authorities on a car chase this week has been released from the hospital. Hinds County deputies chased Tom Mace, Doran Smith, and Eddie Cooper down Highway 18 after the trio reportedly tried to sneak contraband into the Raymond Detention Center. The suspects wrecked during the chase. Cooper is out of the hospital today. Mace is still in the hospital in fair condition, and Smith is in good condition. The Hinds County Sheriff's Department tells us it all began with a sweep of the Raymond Detention Center.
We were doing a perimeter sweep, and we noticed this individual. And when we wanted to inquire, or began to inquire, why this individual was there, they fled the scene.
Authorities say all three men will face multiple charges. Meanwhile, Jackson police are working to figure out what caused this car to slam into a power pole. This happened at McWillie and Northside Drive at about 3 o'clock this morning. At least one gas station and a few other buildings lost power after this crash. There's no word on the driver's condition. Meanwhile, Stephanie, the Salvation Army in Jackson still needs a lot of donations after it was destroyed in a fire last week.
And you know, Keegan, the good news with this, Salvation Army Captain Ken Chapman tells us yesterday's 16 WAPT Salvation Army fire drive was really helpful. He says it brought 2 mountains of clothing, as he described, and more. People from around the metro came out to the temporary warehouse on Raymond Road to donate items. A donor told us he saw how important it is to help out.
I can't think of a better time than right now with the need, and that I mean, just look at the pictures from that fire and just imagine. I can't think of a better reason than right now to come and help out.
Captain Chapman says furniture is the biggest need. He also tells us since the fire, the charity has been able to keep every thrift store worker employed. You can give a $10 donation right now by texting the word Jackson to 80888 on your cell phone. The 7th annual Mississippi Blues Marathon is just 2 days away. Runners who signed up for the marathon went out to register at the Blues Expo today. There is a new route for the fun run this year. The marathon and half marathon starts Saturday morning at 7 on Pascagoula Street at the Mississippi Museum of Art. President Obama will soon unveil changes to the government's surveillance programs. 16 WAPT's Sally Kidd is live in Washington, where the president sat down with congressional leaders. Good evening, Sally.
Well, that's right. Good evening, Stephanie. The White House says the meeting was an opportunity for the president to hear from lawmakers and get their ideas about reform. Now, in August, the president ordered a review of government surveillance programs in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. The White House says the president hasn't made any final decisions at this point, but those familiar with the review say he's expected to restrict NSA access to Americans' phone records and place limits on U.S. spying on foreign leaders. The president is also awaiting separate findings from an independent Privacy and Civil Liberties Board. And tomorrow, White House staffers are going to meet with tech companies to get their input on possible reforms, and the president will make his announcement before his State of the Union address on January 28th. Live in Washington, Sally Kidd, 16 WAPT News. Stephanie.
All right, Sally, thank you so much for that update. All right, Keegan, you've got a job fair to tell us about.
Yeah, Stephanie, this one's coming up in Vicksburg. Casino is actually looking for people to fill some positions there. Ameristar is hosting that job fair tomorrow from 9 o'clock in the morning until noon. It's going to be at their Human Resources Department, which is on Washington Street. About 25 positions are available. Meanwhile, a boil water alert is affecting 5 streets in Jackson right now. Those streets are Timberlake Place, Timber Creek Drive, Dak Lane, Brantley Drive, and a portion of Terry Road. Now, the city of Macomb is also under a boil water alert. The Mississippi Department of Health website issued this alert yesterday for customers who receive their drinking water from the water supply in Pike County. Meanwhile, the polar blast caused some problems for firefighters in our area, Stephanie.
Yeah, frozen water, Keegan, made putting out a house fire even more difficult for some Jackson firefighters last night. That fire started at a home on Perkins Street right near Medgar Evers Boulevard. Everyone made it out safely, though, thanks to a neighbor.
My neighbor come across the street and said that my chimney was on fire. And we come out, try to get the hose to work, but I guess the water still froze from it being so cold.
Well, firefighters were able to get that fire out quickly, but the surrounding fire hydrants and hoses were frozen and they could not be used. The fire trucks had to use stored water to put out those flames. There's no word tonight how much damage that fire caused. All right, David's back with me. Gorgeous for us today.
Well, it was here, but a different story just to our northwest. Raining all day in the Delta. Here's live Storm Shed 16 Doppler radar right now. Still some light rain left over from Monroe up into the Delta, but that's breaking up. But we did make it into the 60s, but at the same time, just to our northwest, it was in the 40s. And they did have a little bit of ice in East Arkansas this morning. But the temperature turnaround complete now. I have your weekend forecast coming up.
New Jersey Governor Chris Christie defends himself as some say some actions taken by one of his top aides could spell trouble for his 2016 presidential run. Plus, Dennis Rodman's apology for his outburst this week will tell you why he says he got loud on CNN. You're watching 16 WAPT Live at 5.
Thank you, Jackson.
Donations are rolling in.
When a massive fire destroyed the Salvation Army thrift store, you were there to help. Joining the 16 WAPT Salvation Army Fire Drive with tons of donations, taking care of each other. What makes us the one to watch.
The incredible $1 million mattress liquidation is on now at the Sleep Store. Mattress manufacturers have selected the Sleep Store to liquidate